Welcome. This podcast is a series of candid conversations exploring the human experience from a completely new perspective. In it, we will be diving deeply into the meaning of commonly used words and pointing you away from that old stressful way of looking at life and towards a new paradigm. This will help you find a sense of calm, cultivate meaningful relationships, and create harmony in every aspect of your life. Here is Navigating Life with Ease with Michaela, Ellis and Clare, Downham.
Hello, Clare.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. A little tired, but I'm okay.
Oh, we'll find out about that later. Late nights. I have a word for you.
Cool.
Let's explore diagnosis.
Ooh. Yeah, that's an interesting one for me. But I mean, first of all, initially what comes to mind is to put the physical and the mental into two different categories, because the physical must be true, because I've got a blood test that proves it and everything. And the other must be thought created, but maybe they both are. I guess, it's a tricky one, this, because I think they can be helpful. The physical one, so Bruce has recently had something going on, and in the end, I said, I think you need to go to the doctor for this, love. It's just gone on far too long. And they have found something that's a bit out of kilter for him, and he's now on some medication that should help. Not long term, just something that'll fix it and sort it out. And without that sort of test that they did and everything and diagnosis, then probably would have carried on with that discomfort and not feeling so well for a long time. So it seems that there's something there. Like there's a physical body, isn't there? And there's a thing here, a machinery, flesh and blood machinery that does jobs. Doesn't always do them well. It gets out of kilter. So recently I've been through a lot of diagnosis stuff around my weight and lots of gathering of gut bacteria. We won't go into the details of how that happened. Blood tests and all sorts of things that have shown that my body isn't functioning in terms of weight management in a very clever way. It's not, everything isn't quite working right. And that's given me some information by which I can make dietary changes, take some different supplement, I can do something about it. So I think on the physical side, there is possibly something helpful about it. But then I also hear stories about people who've, kind of thought themselves well, by being in a certain mindset, by, settling their mind perhaps, because I suppose the underlying thing about that for me is that stress contributes or creates 90% of illness or something, they say now. It used to be 70%. They're now saying 90% is contributed caused by stress. So if our mind is wound up, then that's not going to be helpful. So that's kind of a little pondering on the physical side. On the mental side, in terms of diagnoses, I had a very interesting chat with a client recently who is being helped, and I don't know whether to put that in inverted commas or not, by multiple different bodies within the National Health Service, and the big part of that has been diagnoses of various different mental illnesses, I guess is what you would call them, neurodivergent type thing, just a lot. And it sounded so complicated as I was listening to him. And I ended up saying, but that's still about your relationship with your thinking, whether or not you believe it, whether or not you are understanding how you're feeling and why you feel the way you feel, that's to do with the state of mind thing, and that if that's guiding you how you then behave, then it's just that misunderstanding. It kind of, I don't want to say it doesn't matter what the label, what the diagnosis is, but it matters less when you understand it isn't that it isn't the diagnosis. It's how we then relate to ourselves with that seeing of ourselves. And that takes me back to I did the little course with Mark Howard and Grace Kelly about, there's more to life than thinking about yourself. I think many of these diagnoses can increase the amount we think about ourselves. And we kind of want to knock that on the head, really. We don't want to be thinking about ourselves all the time, because all that happens then is the diagnosis then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We see that behavior in ourselves and it becomes more and more honed in and more energized almost, because we're so focused on it. So it's a really tricky one, because you talk to some people who will say things like, oh, I now know that my ADHD is a superpower and I know how to manage it better, and so maybe the diagnoses have been helpful there. But I don't know. That's kind of how far I've got. I'd be interested in your perspective, because I wonder why that's kind of come up for you right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really good. Yeah. I have been in communication with a number of people who have a diagnosis of sorts. And how I look at a diagnosis, and I'm going to have some fun with this and pull in some other things too, like your, or maybe I shouldn't. No, I want to. Yeah. About something like your Scorpio, something like your Enneagram, something like your Strengths Finder 2.0, something like your human design, because these are all things that I have, checked into too, and found them really helpful. But how we'd like to say it, just what you said, it's information. And it can be really good information to give you a sense, more awareness of something that's already going on. And we like to have, the mind likes certainty. So when it gets a diagnosis, it's like, oh, great, that's me. That's me. I have that. Like when we get into conversations and someone shares, a pattern or something that they kind of get caught on or stuck on, or this is what typically happens, or I always, or I never. And then you have others chime in and say, that's me, that's me. And it's like, that's not you. That's not you at all. But it is something that can happen. It might be a habit of thought. It might be, which is just a pattern or something that is sort of happened. And then because it comes, it's become something that you've taken on, maybe something coping, maybe something like that. It's worked. And I'd love to see more, like, is that still so? Or what if that's not me? What if that is just really good information? During COVID, I was unofficially diagnosed with ADHD. And it was even called COVID ADHD. That it was probably always present, but because we were tucked in so tightly together, and all of our regular stuff, that we may have used in our life to manage our way through things, got chopped away. So then it became more obvious that this, kind of was present. And it's like, okay, well, that's good information, but I already kind of know how my mind works. And there is things that you kind of, over time, I have found to do. Now, understanding how my thought, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that I really, when I first came into this understanding and, would be in coaching situations, like in a group coaching situation, and like I'm having a hot flash. Now, it doesn't really mean anything, but it just means that my body is overheating, so I'm going to fan. It was amazing to me to really discover that when I said I was depressed years ago, that understanding and looking back that I wasn't depressed every moment of every day, that there was times in my day and my weeks and stuff that I laughed, that I enjoyed, that I had fun. It's like, that's not depression. That's not like you are depressed. It's just having depressive type thinking. Thoughts come up, right? Some thoughts come by and they're like, ooh, that's nasty. And we grab onto them. And then we play with them and we roll about in them. And then what happens, law of attraction and all that, we attract more. We just find more and more. And the more we say that we are that, the more we have, in the words of Jamie Smart, goggles on, depressive goggles or ADHD goggles. So I really like to see it as good information in whatever the diagnosis is, and to check back, because it's not lifelong. It doesn't have to be lifelong. You can challenge it at any moment, really, and see, is that true? Is that really true? I had a conversation recently with someone who's, and I believe is on medication for ADHD. And I said, do you, in the focus and all of that was an issue. And I said, well, are there things that you were able to just dive into and focus on and do? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. To me, that's not you. It's like we all have trouble focusing on things that don't, inspire and delight us, until we really recognize and see, because you have to test it out. It's the only way to really understand how the mind works, that it really is true that thoughts come and go. And it's a choice, once we're aware that they do come and go, it's a choice which ones we pluck out and play around with and think about and create more of. My daughter, when she was in school and she was taking it online and in person, and there was a period where she went on some mild medication for focus. And then once school was, and it helped her, And it doesn't help everyone, because I know others that have tried it and it hasn't really worked. But it was beneficial. And then within about a month after school was done, she said, I don't need these anymore. It's like, interesting. So I think that is possible. I've heard stories too. I witnessed it, actually, of someone who was on antidepressants. And when they had an understanding and insight around how their mind worked, with their doctor, they felt that they didn't need it anymore. They didn't just throw it all away. They worked with their doctor and they worked off of them, and he's fine. It's like, wow. So, everyone is unique, and everyone's level of understanding of how the mind works is personal to them. So, I just really wanted to talk about this. And, I didn't I didn't say to the people, that it's like, why don't you try and see do you really need it? Are you, you really know? It's like, Everyone has their journey, because it can become something that if you don't have that, life is scary. If you can't claim this, and therefore, because everything gives us some sort of hidden benefit that we may not be aware of, but it may look like it may actually be holding you back in how you're living your life, because you're hanging on to a diagnosis. So it's like, how can we use a diagnosis? It's just really good information. Like, oh yeah, I have a lot going on in my mind, and there are things that I can do. I can make my, okay, 3 things that I can get done today. What are the most important thing? Like, there are things that you can do to help yourself. And that, that's just one thing. I have a diagnosis too, on a low thyroid. And it's like, I'm on medication. I'm resistant to being on medication for the rest of my life for something. One day, maybe I'll challenge it. I'm not up for it. It doesn't really bother me right now. I don't feel like I have any side effect, or maybe the hot flashes is related to that. I don't know. But when it makes sense, I'm going to check into that too. Like, what is this really about? What's really going on? What do you mean it's died? Part of it is died or whatever. That's kind of how it was explained to me. It's like, that sounds really permanent. But it's like, is it? Is it? Because I also know how powerful our mind is and how we create our reality every moment of every day.
Well, I've got that one too, so maybe we can explore that together at some point.
Yeah,
because I have the houses with that one too. That's the main thing at the moment. I'm working with a nutritionist about. Mainly, my conversion rate is not brilliant because there's 2 aspects. Anyway, we could have a really good explore. Me too. So yeah, it's interesting that it creates it can create a narrowing down of how we see ourselves, I think, can't it? Like,
it can.
Like, I had a client once who was a man who was late diagnosed with ADHD. And I remember one day he said to me, if you saw what it was like on my computer screen, there's all these tabs open and da-da-da. And I was just like, that sounds like me. And I don't think I've got ADHD. However, on reflection later, like a year or 2 later, I was like, oh, maybe I did have ADHD. However, I would honestly say that understanding that I don't have to do what my thinking tells me to do, or not do what my thinking tells me to not do, which in the case of ADHD is often like, oh, where's the squirrel? I'll go over there. Do that instead. Understanding that I don't have to obey that has changed all of that. So that I had a real lack of ability to focus. I procrastinated a lot. I was that kid stood next to the basket where the maths homework went, doing it on the morning it was due in. I'd be stood in the corridor doing my maths homework, get it in the basket last minute, often copying somebody else. Even though I could do it, it was just like, what's the fastest thing to do here? Right, come on, Sarah, give me your book and I'll just copy yours. I don't know who Sarah is. Anyway, but so it's been there a long, long time, this procrastination thing. I remember maybe in my 20s kind of I used to call myself lazy. That was a little voice that was in my head all the time. You're lazy. Why are you not getting things done? Why you procrastinate? There was a lot of that. And when I first started my business after the burnout, it was very loud then, very loud. But over the last few years, it's just that whole persona has just disappeared. She's just not really there anymore. And I do have a good ability to focus and, get things done that I want to get done. So that's really interesting as well for me, because I just think, well, if I'd have gone for a diagnosis a few years ago, probably would have got one. Probably could be getting all that funding from the government in this country that you can get. It's like that if you run a business. There's a grant available. Damn, missed out on that one, didn't I? So yeah, but thank goodness I didn't, in a way, because that probably would have narrowed down my view of myself. It's like this seeing of a behavior as being an indicator of that condition. I think anxiety is a great example of that, in terms of these feelings mean that you've got anxiety. Well, those feelings in the 70s and 80s meant you were a bit nervous about something you had going on in your life. They didn't mean anything else. They didn't. Never came across a thing called anxiety or a thing called depression when I was a kid. It didn't seem to exist. Probably did. They just weren't talking about all the time. And I do think that's something that's occurred now, that these diagnoses and self-diagnoses have become rife because of this misunderstanding about it being okay to experience all sorts of different thoughts and all sorts of different feelings. And we don't need to put all of those into a diagnosis box to become a condition called lockdown ADHD. I mean, is that in the DSM now? What the heck? There was one here. It was called lockdown. I think just called it lockdown syndrome. And then there was this. I saw a post on Facebook about it, and there was this list of symptoms. I'm just thinking, so you wake up this morning and you feel a bit grey, and you're feeling a bit. Well, yeah, most of us are a bit at the moment because it's all a bit weird, but now you think you've got lockdown syndrome. The NHS has got enough going on without you going in for some treatment for lockdown syndrome. It's self-perpetuating. It's perpetuating, not just self-perpetuating. It's like worldwide perpetuating. Here's the symptoms that belong to this diagnosis. So if you identify that you've got a few of those, you're on. And your self-diagnosis, the self-diagnosis, especially with, I would say, with young people in particular, anxiety has probably become the biggest self-diagnosis. ADHD is probably following close behind, but and I think about my kids when they were at school, sort of being given PowerPoint presentations about, how to self-diagnose yourself. I would say probably didn't realize they were doing that, but here's a slide. This is what anxiety is, and it's got all these symptoms attached to this diagnosis, and that therefore, if you spot you've got a few of these, you've got anxiety. Well, you're just having a normal feeling. That's a normal human feeling. Actually, nothing wrong with you. It's normal to experience nervousness, which is what anxiety basically is, but word up a bit. So
perpetuated.
It's perpetuating. It's almost like we've taught. I have said this before. It's almost like we've taught people to be mentally ill by providing them with all this information, which was done in such a well-meaning way. It was done to provide, so that people wouldn't be judged so harshly, so that employers would be kinder to people who were, why couldn't employers just be kind to people? But anyway, it didn't seem to work that way. It seemed that they needed to know, I've got a piece of paper that says I've got anxiety, and therefore you've got to treat me differently. And so now there's so much information that somebody starts to feel those butterflies in their stomach, and instead of going, oh, I'm a bit nervous about something, what's going on here? They go, I've got anxiety. And then the whole thing just is this self-feeding, horrible, like insidious sort of whirring of thought, feeling, until the poor person can't leave the house or whatever. It's sad, really sad. And it's that relationship with the feeling or the thought that changes through this conversation, I think. And then you kind of go, oh yeah, that's a kind of normal human thing I'm experiencing there. Nothing wrong with me. Just caught up in my mind at the moment, believing my thoughts, thinking my feelings are a problem.
Like a really good test experiment for anyone to do who's listening in right now is, if there is something you've been diagnosed with, it's like, here's an example, using anxiety as an example, because often it can be situational, right? Situational anxiety. It's another label. Anyways, but it could be, like meeting new people or going into a new building or store or whatever, or even just going out of your house, like you said. But you can catch on to yourself a bit if you're feeling that anxiousness just by thinking about it, that you don't even have to go out and encounter those situations. That is a really good indication something for you to see of how your mind is creating it, because you're not even in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just imagining it. Ergo, you are feeling your own thinking. That's what you're experiencing. So, yeah. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying that it's any fun having any of these feelings and experience. I'm not diminishing the, you know, the pain, the discomfort, the limitation on life that you may be experiencing. It's you know, I'm inviting, and it's an invitation to just explore it. Don't accept it point blank and make that you. That is not you. You are,
Yeah.
you know, you are a creative, energetic spirit living through you with limitlessness. And the only thing that will put any limits on is your own thinking. And it's just explore, just check it out. Just, yeah, advocate for yourself and see what you can see that's new about this. Just
Beautiful.
check it out. Yeah.
What a lovely place to finish. That's beautiful. For people to take that little experiment forward and see what they can see. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michaela. That was a good one.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate your insights on that.
Take
We'll
care.
see you again next time.
Yeah, absolutely. See you next
All
time.
right.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye. Hey, thank you for being a part of Navigating Life with Ease. We'd love to hear your feedback and receive a review on your favorite podcast platform. This will help others who'd also like more ease in their life to find us. We're here to support you, so if you've any words you'd like us to explore or you've a question, please reach out to us at navigatinglifewithease@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of Navigating Life with Ease.